Hey guys, it's Matt here with Revived Builds, and recently I installed Shiplap in my basement bathroom for only 15 bucks, and I want to show you how I did it. Let's check it out. Alright, so I didn't necessarily install Shiplap, traditional Shiplap, just like this, where there's a rabbet on each end. Now, there are many ways to create the Shiplap style, and that's what this video is going to be all about. I'm not going to necessarily show how to install Shiplap, because one, I didn't videotape myself installing the Shiplap, but two, there are hundreds of videos showing how to install the Shiplap. So let's get to it.
Alright, so the first method to create the Shiplap style is to actually use Shiplap boards. Now, the Shiplap consists of a rabbet on either end so that the planks can overlap, as you can see there. Now you can actually get original Shiplap from houses, which it was originally used as sheathing, and these are roof sheathing planks. Or you can actually buy new Shiplap boards from your big box store. Either way, I found that this method is actually pretty expensive, whether you're buying new or buying used Shiplap boards. Now, the next method I want to show you guys is the method of taking sheet goods, such as plywood or a particle board, and then cutting slits every so often in order to create the illusion that there are Shiplap boards spaced every so often. And that can be 4, 6, 8 inches apart. Now, the downside to this method is that once you have your sheet goods home, you have to create those slits. And that's typically done with a circular saw and a straight edge. And so if you don't have those tools, that can be a limiting factor. But on the upside, once you have all your slits done, the installation is really, really simple, because instead of laying one Shiplap board at a time, you can put the whole panel in and install it much quicker. Now, the third method I want to show you guys involves using strips of thin sheet goods, such as 1/8 or 1/4 inch plywood. Now, you'd buy the full sheet good and you have to cut it down to your 4, 6, or 8 inch widths. Now, the one benefit to this is that you can get it cut at your hardware store. Now, I know you can get a couple cuts and they usually do it for free, but you may need to pay a little bit extra to cut the rest. But if you don't have a saw that could cut this, that is a good option. Another benefit to this method is thin sheet goods are typically cheaper than your thicker sheet goods. And lastly, if you don't have a good way to install this, like a nail gun, because it's a thin sheet good, it can easily be adhered to the wall with just construction adhesive. Alright, now the last method I want to show you guys is the method of using dimensional 1x boards. And those boards can be 4, 6, 8 inches wide, and they're all going to be the 1 inch nominal thickness, which means they're 3/4 of an inch thick. Now, the one downside to this method is that I would suggest they be fastened with nails, whether it be by hand or a nail gun. But the biggest benefit is that there's no cutting strips, there's no cutting slits, and all you need to do is cut the boards to length. And that can be done with a miter saw, or it can be done with a hand saw.
Alright guys, so those were just 4 ways that you can create the Shiplap style. Now, from that, the first thing I want to say is be flexible. Know your options. And that is the first step that I took, was to know that I could use MDF or plywood or just dimensional 1x's. And so with that, I went and searched on Craigslist, or there are many other community resources, to see people getting rid of, for either at a low cost or even free, some material. Because it was a bathroom, a pretty small bathroom, I didn't need that much material. And I was able to find, after just browsing for a couple weeks on Craigslist, some 1x8s for sale at a very, very low cost. It ended up being $15 for all the wood that I had, and I even had some extra. So that is what I would say. One, just be flexible, know your options, and don't get stuck with one way or the other, and allow yourself to choose an option that's easy to approach and also affordable. Number two is use used material. That is the best way to save money, is to use material that someone's getting rid of, throwing away. Being able to, especially with wood, sanding will bring it back to life. And that's what I did. I spent a lot of time sanding all the boards because they had already been used either as formwork for concrete or some type of grout application. So there was a lot of material that needed to be sanded off. Now, the last thing that I want to say as a tip is I just was running and gunning when I was measuring my boards. Like I said, I went with 1x material. Now this is a 1x6. I had 1x8s. I just went with the flow and I was okay with gaps. And then I realized that I needed to cover those gaps up because they looked pretty bad. So I needed to then I had to cut corner trim pieces, basically these triangle pieces that could hide the gaps. And with that, then I needed a top trim piece to hide the gap between those two pieces. And so as you can see right here, it turned out okay. It's not like the traditional shiplap that you think of, but you know, I was able to cover my mistakes. But I would say to plan what you're doing so you don't waste time and energy. But on the flip side, you can usually fix mistakes. So, alright guys, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it was more information, not really project-based, but hopefully you learned something about the options that you have to create the shiplap style, and that it's always better to reuse material. And lastly, just plan what you're doing. Plan your next project. I know I need to work on that. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And we'll see you in the next one.